Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the latest Shuttle Sunday show. Those of you who've been following along with this series will know that we started with a show with STS-1 and moved all our way up. So we're keeping going. We're now on STS-27. We're going to hopefully get through all 135 missions, which will be something, but that'll spread over several months, maybe if not years, the way there's so many missions to cover. But each one is unique and each one is interesting, and no least a very good example of why you have to go through the history of Shuttle to really understand the Shuttle program, because they had some close calls. As the thumbnail suggests, Atlantis had a close call on STS-27 just a few missions after the Challenger disasters. You can imagine how bad that would have been if that had happened. In fact, we do have a video clip later that kind of like emphasizes how close a call this was. So, to talk through this, we have some special people with us, starting with Sawyer. Hello, Sawyer.
Hello, Chris. I'm glad to be special people, and I'm glad to be here always talking about my favorite vehicle, the space shuttle. And I'll get my Sawyer flex out of the way early. I've met three-fifths of this crew, and I've got some great stories to share.
Wow, a Sawyer flex right off the bat. That's crazy. It's normally they just naturally arrive. Well, by the way, yes, I met that person, but not Sawyer straight away in his introduction with a flex. That's amazing.
Got
Also
to start
joined,
strong.
also joined us is Jack. Hello, Jack.
I think we broke the record for fastest time to Sawyer Flex ever on a Shuttle Sunday, or perhaps any NSF stream. But hi, I'm Jack. Let's talk about this mission. It's like you said, Chris. Each shuttle mission is different and unique, and I think this one might be one of my very favorites. This is a crazy one.
Certainly is. And also in the back room, we have Jay. I never thank the producers on streams. I'm notorious for it because I always forget. I just think about who's commentating. I have to introduce those. But Jay's in the background. Jay has done all these Shuttle Sundays. And without Jay, you can guarantee this wouldn't have worked, because the way I present these are much further than Raptor sides. We have video, audio, and all that business going on. So thanks to Jay for making that all work for us. And we do have a lot of pictures. We have some videos as well, but we have a lot of pictures because the reason for Shuttle Sunday is we have a much wider collection than you may find in public. Some of the pictures are public, of course they are, because all the missions are documented. But we also have a collection of photographs for every single mission, sometimes in the hundreds of photographs, sometimes from the loft of people who worked in the space shuttle, where they have their actual photographs on film and they'll send them off to a special place. We have a routine now where they can get them digitized and then sent into L2. And that way, we protect those photographs forever. Because if you leave photographs in a shoebox in a loft, that doesn't mean it's going to be there forever. It could easily get lost or destroyed in any case. So it's very important to us that we have those. And that way, we can then show them in public and it's on the internet forever. So that's the beauty of it all. I really find that important. I do think it's a very important point. So let's get right in with the photographs, and I'm going to start with this one because I know Sawyer likes talking about the mission patch. Here we go. The mission patch for STS-27, Sawyer. Over to you.
Thank you. Yes. So, in particular, for this mission patch, as you can see, we have the rainbow in the back, which is meant to symbolize the triumphant return to human spaceflight after STS-51L. In honor of STS-51L, of course, with this being so shortly after still, you have the 7 stars, each representing the crew members of Challenger, and then the names.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, I've always said it many a time that the reflection of how good these patches are for the space shuttle mission, and I will give a big shout out to the NRO. And it's kind of because the Department of Defense mission, so it kind of like related there. But the NRO patches are always beautiful. There's been quite a few boring patches out recently from like companies, such as especially NASA as well. Although I do like the Optimus 2 one. That is a very good, cool patch. But I always thought the shuttle patches had a lot of colour to them, a lot of designations of what the mission is inside the actual graphics, and I find that important that we portrayed that in our own NSF patches that we put out for the Starship launches. So that's where that's all come from, and that's why I do like always starting off with the mission patch. Let's go through some more preparation photographs here. Here's Atlantis. Now, people are going, Chris, but you sure that's Atlantis actually leaving the OPF rather than going back after the mission? Well, the clue is the booties. The booties are on. There we go. These are the booties we keep mentioning with the Raptors. Now, the Raptors have since changed to these like outer like covers, but they used to have booties on. And these are the Rockwell, International at this point of the company naming scheme for the RS-25s on the back there, and that is OPF2 because the numbers were on the door. And Sawyer, you'll recognise this. They're still you've been to last time you were at KSC and you went past, say, Starliner's building, that is still there, isn't it? That gap where the rudder speed brake would go through.
It absolutely is. All of the former shuttle processing facilities still have that little notch in the door for it. And yes, the one currently being used, I believe that one is the one being used by Starliner. There's also one there that's being used for the X-37B, and all of them have that notch still.
That is so awesome. It really is. I'm glad I didn't take it out. It's kind of like if I ever get a chance to see one of these OPFs in like modern era, it'd be like amazing. Just go from the 80s. Oh my word! I get very excited. Here we go. Now here is rollover. Now this one we don't know if it is post mission or not because normally, now Sawyer, help me out here. It was always a case of rollover was wheels off. They were on the shuttle transporter system, which since has gone to SpaceX, by the way, in an auction, and they've converted it for Falcon 9. But I don't know back in that day they did still roll them out on the wheels. Can you remember?
Um, I'm pretty sure they were still on the wheels at that time, but
Yeah.
I don't think the actual transporter came till a little later.
I love
It's
that.
all,
I love that transporter just because of your inability to not mention it at every possible opportunity. Like I love that transporter, and I know exactly where it came from whenever SpaceX uses it, and I know it because you drill that home every time. It's amazing.
the orbiter transporter system was used for the space shuttle program. Then SpaceX bought it in an auction for about $12,000, painted it white, put a bit of modification on top, and then basically just used it for Falcon 9s. And every time Max or Sawyer or Julia or anybody out there at KSC takes a video of it rolling past, I go, that used to be for the shuttle program. Yes, it's almost like one of my go-to things. In fact, if I'd ever didn't do it, I probably might just melt into
It's like
oblivion.
it's how we'll tell if you're in like a Blade Runner kind of scenario. Like it'll be
Yeah.
part of your Voight like test. Like we'll be like, Chris, what about that transporter? And if you don't react, we'll know that you're a robot and you're a fake Chris. But no, it's a really cool fact. It should be on like the NSF bingo card or the Shuttle Sunday bingo card. Like, oh, Chris mentioned the transporter.
Also,
And
by the
now I
way,
need to watch. Go on, sorry.
I was gonna say I did the research on it. They didn't start using it till 1989. So yes, this was
Ah,
still pre orbiter transport system.
two things. This is why I wanted to ask you, Sawyer, because it was in the rollover, and that is basically pre-launch photograph collection. And I was like, well, hang on, it's Wheels On, because normally Wheels On was only coming back from the runway, the shuttle landing facility, back to the OPF. So it was a really little quiz question there. And the second thing is, I need to watch Blade Runner again tonight. Okay,
Wait,
right.
which one? Which one?
Oh no, the only one. Oh, I'm sorry. I do like the new version, but it's not a patch on Harrison Ford's original.
Yes, I agree. Both are good. New
The
original.
director's cut. Yeah.
Okay, director's cut. Got it. Yeah, because
Yes.
there's a bunch of different versions. Got it. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. There we go. Original director's cut. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shuttle Sunday, where we discuss movies.
Yeah.
Here's the crew. Would you like to talk about the crew, Sawyer?
Absolutely, yes. So for this mission, it was a crew of 5, and 3 of them actually had been assigned to a previous mission that was going to be the first flight out of Vandenberg of the space shuttle. Obviously, that didn't happen following Challenger, and everything moved and stayed on the best coast, East Coast, for the remainder of the space shuttle program. But the commander was Hoot Gibson. Robert is his real name. Then you had Guy Gardner as the pilot, Richard, also better known as Mike Mullane, as MS-1, Jerry Ross as MS-2, and then William Shepard was MS-3. So again, it was kind of decided that the original 3 that were planned for that Vandenberg flight, which again was going to also be a Department of Defense type deal, would continue with the DoD mission over on the East Coast.
Oh yes. There's lots to fit into this Shuttle Sunday timeline for our 1 hour show because this mission itself was a DoD mission, which normally means you get very little content from them for obvious reasons, for national security reasons. But the amount of content we got in this one is quite interesting, and a lot of it got declassified. We actually have a diagram of the spy satellite that they were launching, which is something that only got declassified about 10 years or so ago. So we're going to show that as well. But I'm going to go through some more photographs because I know I've got quite a few pre-launch photographs we can show the crew here. We're in the orange suits now. We are post-Columbia. We're in the Aces suits now, so that's moved on. This was actually pre-launch as well. This was Atlantis coming back from a previous mission that landed in California.
Look at
And
that.
yeah, I was waiting for. I
Love
thought, well, I'm
it.
putting that in for Jack
Oh,
because
man.
it's beautiful, isn't it?
Plane and space plane, beautiful. I mean, Florida scrubland. I know Sawyer likes the East Coast, but Florida scrubland, okay, background. Look at the subject, though. Holy cow. And the worm on the. Oh, my God. That's beautiful.
Did I say post-Columbia? Post-Challenger, of course. Forgive me if I said that. I can't go back and rewind my brain to find out what I actually did say. But it's post-Challenger, obviously. When we're in that era of the 80s still. There's the external tank and also the fancy VAB. Look at that.
Whoa. That's a
Yep.
really cool shot.
Yeah, and you know why it was painted like that, right? That
Tell
was
us, Sawyer.
That was for America's bicentennial. They put up the special bicentennial symbol for 1976, and it kind of just stayed there for a very long time until they finally replaced it with what you see on the right side of your screen with the NASA logo.
Giant meatball. It's so crazy that we can have this historical image on the left and we have SCL, Space Coast live on the right. How neat.
Oh, yes.
Also, Sawyer, I'm sorry for dunking on the East Coast. You triggered me earlier. I had to do it.
No, it's totally fine. You have every right to after my slander of the West Coast.
Also, I don't think we've said it yet. If everyone watching live right now, because we do this live, you might be watching this on demand, But if you're watching live, and you have any questions at NASA Spaceflight, I am watching the panel right now. So if we're talking about something and you want to know more, just throw it in chat.
Absolutely, yeah. And also, God Save the King, because the Brenton 200 years. Moving on. There's a patch again. Now there's
Getting some tea to throw in the water.
No, we're not going
Throw it
there.
in the turn basin.
I'm outnumbered by Americans, help me. Right. So we've got the crew photographs here. Obviously, every single mission, they would do a casual photograph, they would do an official photograph, they'd do a suit photograph, and sometimes even a fun photograph. This one didn't have that one. I'm sure they probably did one. Unless DoD missions didn't allow for that. They were too serious face for it. I don't know. But many missions we've seen on Shuttle Sundays before, and some in the future, they have some really hilarious, fun crew portraits, and they are something to really behold. We need to do a video on it one day, just showing them all, because there's lots, and they are pretty hilarious. That looks like it's probably the crew breakfast, but they've got a cake. Look at that. The patch is a cake. The cake is not a lie. The cake is a patch.
The cake is a patch.
Wow.
They're so ahead of their
Little show
time. All of those TikTok videos now where it's like, is it cake?
Oh, jeez.
And there's crew walkout. There we go. All happy going to the Astrovan. Sorry, I had to go into the Astrovan. There we go. Of course, they've moved on since. They're more modified. All going to Teslas now, aren't they? Here we go. There's Hoot.
God.
Hoot is going to be the subject of a video later. I've got to thank one of the channels that did a very long test pilot interview with him, but then went on to the space shuttle program, and we got a good few minutes, and there's a lot more, but I'll link the video so you watch a video on the original channel of what Hoot Gibson thought about the main incident on this mission being a TPS damage. So it's fascinating. He really is fascinating to listen to.
Yeah,
So,
and the crew got a nickname because of him. And if I may quote from Mike Mullane's book Riding Rockets, which was the first astronaut biography I ever read, said Hoot Gibson was a natural born leader. He didn't micromanage as some commanders did. Hoot gave each of us our duties and set us free to be creative to get the job done. He was also a blood brother from Planet AD. The office secretaries quickly named STS-27 Swine Flight and gave each of us strap-on novelty pig snouts because of our animal snorting sounds whenever an attractive woman came within eyeshot.
Yikes.
there we go.
Hoot is an absolute legend, like classic the right stuff type,
Yeah.
test pilot. And we'll talk about just wait. If you don't know anything about STS-27, you are about to find out a lot about one of the craziest missions, and that includes some comments from Hoot a little bit later on. Also, I just got to say, while we're looking at this picture, look at those pumpkin suits. Like,
Yeah.
holy cow. They're just gorgeous to me still, even now. And the patch on there, just like, oh man, they're looking good.
Really are. I'm going, boys and girls, while I read out some thanks, do you want to see a rocket launch? I'm asking the right group of people here. I know I am, but I'm going to show the launch video next.
Yeah,
Put
I'm
your hand
good,
up in
thanks.
chat. Let's see how many people are here. Let's put your hand up in chat. By the way, I'm talking to people on the live show. People who are watching the recorded version are probably thinking, where do I put my hand up? I don't know how to. It's a live show on SCL this time on a Sunday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. But we don't also record it, so you probably depends on if you're watching it live or recorded per the hands up signal. But first of all, thanks to PN20, who became a Capcom member. WB Hockey 13, who became a launch director, which is a big level. Thank you for that. Verdelgask, I probably butchered your name. Best shuttle is Shuttle Sunday. Thank you. That's almost a tongue twister. Junar, shuttle transporter like the Vigo Mortensen tour. It's more weird not to mention it. If when you see the scene, oh my
Yeah,
god, we
yeah.
need Adrian in here for that.
If you don't know, Viggo Mortensen broke his toe in that one scene in Lord of the Rings, and like his reaction is real or whatever because he broke his toe. Yeah, I could absolutely picture Adrian being the person in this moment where he's like, he broke his toe. It's like, we know. Let us watch the scene.
We have a ton of hands up. We have a lot of people watching. That's pretty cool because you never know with these SCL and SBL. You have a lot of people just leave it on, so you don't actually have a real figure number for people who are in. But we've got a lot of hands up there, so that's a really good sign. Let's watch the launch then. You asked for it. I promised you it. Here we go. By the way, one little caveat here. This is old day NASA TV. A lot of their videos are still pretty good, but this one was quite awful. I'm sure Jack will critique the exposure levels on this, but here we go. I'm going to play it, and I'm going to pause my microphone so I don't double hear it.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. We have a go for main engine start. 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff. Atlantis begins another space voyage as it clears the tower.
Throttling down for passage through maximum dynamic pressure on the vehicle. Three engines now at 65%. Atlantis been given a go at throttle up. All three main engines back up to 104%. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Three good engines, three good APUs. Relative velocity about 2,900 feet per second. Downrange 12 nautical miles. Mark 1 minute 50. Three engines up at 104%. SRB separation. Now 31 nautical miles downrange.
There we go. So you see what I mean? It's not the best launch video that NASA's ever done, but either way, it's important we show it because if we didn't show the launch, that'd be silly. We do have a
Right.
poll in chat, by the way. Jack, would you like to explain yourself with your poll?
Okay, so I do have access to the NSF account, and I may or may not have logged in and made a poll for the best NASA logo. Because when we were talking about the logo on the VAB, I, was thinking about the worm and the meatball, so I put a poll in there. Also, chat was talking about it, so if you want to weigh in what your thoughts are, and you're watching live, there it is.
And if you
See, if
are not, let us know in the comments.
If I'd have written that poll, I just put like worm, 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 and then said, "Well, worm's won." Everybody agrees. Thank you, everybody, because worm is
Also,
the best logo.
for those who don't know, the choices were worm, meatball, wormball, and metahedron.
Oh my word! That's
I'm
that. I've,
intrigued.
I've never heard the fourth one. That's a new one. Anyway, launch photographs. Look at this. These are better. These are really cool. Here
Yeah.
we go.
And
Let's see
what's
how
crazy
far we
about
can zoom
this
in.
what's crazy about the launch is people didn't know that it was happening until 24 hours before. They only let people know what the T0 was and the launch date 24 hours ahead of time, and that first attempt, which was delayed because of clouds and winds, so it was the day after. So technically 48 hours notice, but 24 hours to the first attempt.
Such
How
an
many-
iconic image. It's Atlantis. It's the best shuttle.
Wait,
Can
Is
we
it not
tell?
Atlantis? Wait, it's
No, it is
Atlantis, right?
Atlantis. We're going back
what's
to the
there?
Jackson.
Is the crane? Is the crane there? I think it's still there. It's the big reveal every Shuttle Sundays. Is the crane still there? And I haven't been here for the last couple, so
It had still been there, don't worry.
Yeah,
okay, good.
there we go.
Still
So
there.
anyway,
And
What
this
I was
is
gonna
B, by the way. This is pad B.
I was going to ask you, Sawyer, how did people not know? Because the fueling process is 3 days before it launches. So didn't they have access to where they could see that? There was no Space Coast Live back in those days, but I find that fascinating that no one could really know until the day before.
Yeah, I mean, sure, they could get an idea of roughly when, but they weren't going to give them a T0 that someone could then use to try and calculate the orbit and things like that. And to this day, if you go into the official NASA page for this mission, launch weight, classified. Orbital inclination, 57 degrees. Orbital altitude, classified.
Another
There you
reason
go.
why I love Atlantis and it's the best shuttle, it does all of these spooky classified missions, which in and of themselves are all very interesting to learn as much as we can about with the little scraps that have been declassified here or there. Hey, look, it's a crane.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
completely
Still there.
ignoring Atlantis, my favorite orbiter. I'm completely ignoring her because I want to show the crane still
The,
there. There we
the
go.
NRO got to Chris B, so he doesn't want to talk.
P.S. This is still the what? Was this 39A, Sawyer?
He says a B.
No, this was pad B, 39B.
Oh, well, damn it. Yeah, but the idea is the 39A's water tower is still the original one from the Space Shuttle program. But there we go. So
No, that
is.
one looks kind of stubbier in comparison. It's more
Yeah.
narrow.
Yeah, the one at 39A there, that's still there, is the original water tower. They didn't rebuild the water tower for SpaceX when they modified the pad.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, look at that photograph. I say probably before you see it on screen because I'm notorious for being out of sync with what I'm showing. But that is a glorious photograph. That is metal print worthy. It's not our photograph, so we can't do that. Oh, can really zoom in on this as well. Jack, I'm bringing you back on cameras. This is the 80s. The cameras are so good in the 80s. I mean, maybe they're probably a lot better now. I mean, you can probably zoom in like that level and have still massive quality, but still a beautiful photograph for the era.
I mean, depending on the type of film, you could actually be able to zoom in quite a bit or crop in, I should say. Film doesn't mess around, man. Like this is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful image.
It really is.
Wow. If only I could go back in time. I was on a stupid film set when the last one went and looked over it from Orlando and was like, "Yep, there it goes." And then went back to work doing pointless nonsense. Like if only I could go back in time and get some get some good photos.
Sorry,
And
I laughed
there's-
way too hard at that.
No, I
There's
mean,
proof
we've all
it's
been there.
39B.
Yep.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
you can, and here's something I always bring up as well. Is the
Where's
road to
39B?
nowhere.
The
The
road to
road
sea.
to nowhere. Look, right? So I'm zooming into a terrible quality, but if you go Google Maps, boys and girls, to this day, this still exists. So you've got the crawlerway back here, or you can just see in the bottom corner if I'm going to crop it out here, but you can see the split between 39A and 39B. But there's also another split for what was going to be 39B, 39C. Sorry, my brain's not working. 39C, which was this road here. But of course, it never happened, so they never actually built it. And then NASA very annoyingly built a 39C inside 39B, which made no sense whatsoever, to try and attract Rocket Lab to 39B. And Rocket Lab said, nah, we're going to go to Wallops. So that's no longer a thing.
I like that you point out the non-crawler way to see because it's just another little bit of like what could have been. The same way that Slick 6 in a lot of ways is like, oh, what could have been.
I still want to see LC-49. It's been an official, I'm not leaking anything, official NASA report. They put it on NASA.gov. SpaceX said nothing about it, ironically, but NASA did. NASA.gov did. So we're doing an environmental report with SpaceX on the prospect of having LC-49 for Starship. And our KSC friends said it was going to be 6 pads, 3 sets of 2, which could be 1 tower for catching, 1 for launching, we don't know. But it was going to be 3 sets of 2. And that was incredible. That's on a back burner, and it looks like SpaceX will go from 39A, sorry, Shuttle Sunday, I know, but 39A to LC-37. That's what they've officially now said. We all knew that was going to be the case. So it's fascinating that if the future then does pivot back to 49, that might be 39C on steroids. I mean,
Right.
that's going to be bonkers.
Do you think in that case that is the access route that they'll go? Like they'll just extend a
Maybe.
road there, because there's already a road that goes along the crawler way, right?
Well,
It
they're
makes perfect
actually,
sense.
I mean, as of right now, they are actively widening the paved road to the right of the crawlerway going to 39A so that they can have room for Starship to travel from Roberts Road over to 39A. So I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do that here.
Because it does make sense. If you think about it, SpaceX have got 39A. They've got Roberts Road. They're going to have to access it through the VAB area. They've got the turn base and they're going to bring starships into, which is basically towards the crawlerway. My future senses are peaking because imagine, think about the launch cadence. The launch cadence alone.
Yep.
We think Starlink's launch left, right, and centre. Imagine what Starship would be like with all those pads and towers.
Can't wait. Sign me up.
Oh, yeah. East Coast, West Coast.
That's actually not the same photograph as the one before. Well, that's true statement. Sorry, I allow true statements to be just mentioned randomly on stream. This is not the same photograph I showed earlier. This is a slightly different angle. I'm looking at my preview screen as well, you see, because I can tell this is a different photograph. But this is again, it's probably even better.
Great
than
shot
one
of
I
the
showed
OMS
earlier.
engines there that aren't firing, but you can see the OMS engines. A lot of people, when learning about the shuttle, don't realize that once it's on orbit, the SSMEs are doing nothing. Those OMS engines plus the RCS are how they get any kind of inclination change or what have you handled. So OMS engines, neat.
And this is one of the most famous shuttle photos out there. I'm sure many of you have actually seen this exact photo when you Google space shuttle.
Right.
Yep, people who are into this, RS-25s, SSMEs, 1, 2, 3. OMS pods, 1, 2. And you've got your RCS and your veneer thrusters. And they were also on the front as well. You got Ford RCS. Can we just about see it? Maybe. There we go. So you got those as well. Even the SRBs had little thrusters because when they separated, they had to push them away from the external tank and then come back down and be landed on a parachute. There's so many things we go through, but we'll be here all day. There we go. Another photograph. Another launch photograph. This one in color.
Beautiful black and white image. Beautiful color image. All these are just so iconic. Also, that was a great shot of the crane. Something about the aerial imagery of solid rocket, like rockets with solid motors. It's just the plume makes it look that much cooler. Like if you're gonna shoot any rocket from the air, you could pick any rocket, pick one with solid motors.
Indeed.
Which I know Max was going to try for the latest Atlas, but then it didn't launch.
So it goes.
Right. So DoD mission, Department of Defense, secret, classified.
It'd be really funny if your mic just like cut off halfway through you were.
Yeah. And I get a knock at the door. Last thing you hear is a knock on the door, and then me mic going dead, going, "Oh, that's
FBI,
Chris being
open up."
black bagged. Black bagged. Bye, Chris. I'm like, you want an adventure, right? Anyway, these missions tend to have very few on-orbit photographs for the very reason I was mentioning, the fact that it's secret. But this one got quite a few. I must admit, there's nothing to be seen here. But it is mainly of the crew having a good time on orbit. So let's show them, shall we? Here we go. Because they'd obviously use some. Obviously, Sawyer, they were doing not just the satellite deployment. They had other experiments on board. Maybe you probably know about them.
I actually don't. There is nothing publicly about it. There is no public press kit for this. The only one was there was I think a Morton Thiokol one and a Rockwell one, but nothing about what was actually going on. All that we know about this was everything from riding rockets. And he talks about time to celebrate after they did their deployment, including one where they said they decided to grab some M&M candies and butter cookies. Soon a baseball game was in full swing. I would pitch an M&M to Guy, and he would bat it across the middeck with a locker tool. Jerry and I would then field them with our mouths. There's also one where they were talking about, and I'm sure we have a picture of the football, uh, when they did that because they were honoring NASA apparently at the Super Bowl halftime show that year. And so they were going to give a space flown ball to NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle. And so they did their best to kind of try and inflate it because it had to be deflated to fit inside the payload lockers. And so they had a hilarious weightless football game, quote unquote.
There you go, Sawyer.
Yeah, so that's actually kind of, they barely inflated it enough to take the picture, and that was it. But so it wasn't actually really fully inflated. They just did their best in that shot.
There we go. That's cool. What's that? I didn't notice that until I actually just clicked on it. So look. Suffolk County, maybe. By the way, I bring these up because a lot of the time you'll see like Navy and Army folks who fly on shuttle, because obviously shuttles mainly had a lot of military people involved, and they'll take up their banners for Army. Oh, there you go. Look, there's one. US Air Force Academy. Examples of that. There's so many of these on shuttle missions because they do represent their branch from what they've come from, which is absolutely perfectly great.
As well as in the wake up music too, which they had the Army fight song to wake up on flight day 2, so their first full day in orbit. Day 3 was a parody of Rawhide from like the TV show Rawhide, for those who remember. And then the last day was a parody of the Beatles song "Do You Want to Know a Secret?"
Ah, very nice. Jack, cameras. What do you see
I
here?
mean, I see a very old video camera, it looks like. I see, it looks like a large or medium format stills, two large or medium format still cameras. Just look at that. Wait, no, that is not that looks like a film camera on the big thing he's holding with the pistol grip there on the left side of the image. That is a motion picture film camera. What is that? What does that say? ASA. Oh, we can even see how sensitive the film is. I'm gonna geek out about this photo later, but that's some beautiful cameras in there. That's a gorgeous piece of machinery. It's an Airflex. Yeah, it's an Airflex.
Yeah.
Probably
Jack, you're talking about numbers and stuff. I'm thinking, where are the numbers? I don't know where I'm looking at these things. I don't know anything about cameras. But yeah,
probably a 16 millimeter film camera.
Very cool. And of course, the footage from that, I don't think we'll ever get to see in public because it's classified mission. There's a photograph. Now, again, I like to do this on every Shuttle Sunday. If you're live or if you're in the comment section of the recorded video that goes on our YouTube channel in public, name what you're looking at. Name the destination. It always comes up and people tend to find it. I'm sure some people cheat with the AI software, but I don't care. The idea is I'd like to know myself.
They're probably wrong. The AI is probably wrong most of the time anyway. It's like, oh, it's the moon. And it's like, bro.
It's some fancy delta.
I'm so bad at geoguessing, but yeah,
I'm terrible. Yeah, I am terrible at it.
Beautiful though.
Oh, we got a guess from Michael saying Brazil. Yes, I am reading YouTube chat. Lord of Random says North and South America, so that would still count because Brazil's in that area.
That looks like a very big river, and it looks like right. It looks like it's emptying into a large, it's not emptying into a lake or anything. It's emptying into an ocean. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Lord of Random says Amazon River. Michael Bertoldi says State of Ampia. I do not know what that is.
It's better guess when I come up without. I wouldn't have a clue. By the way, Astrogia, one of our absolute regulars and a big fan of Shuttle Sunday, and I want to give you a shout out, Astrogia. Gift a Red Team membership. Thank you for doing that. If you got that gift of membership, I wonder if I can see it. I'm going to go up. Here we go. Who got it? Niall Anderson got it. Gifted a red. It says here was gifted a membership by Astrogia. That's cool because that shows that you've been given it. And if you do see that, if you see your name turn green via a gifted membership, do say thank you in chat because it's the nicest thing to do because it's a really cool gift. Oh, there we go. Flight deck of the old days. And look at that. A real nice. This makes me feel a little bit awkward about the video I'm going to show later. But there's a family photograph on the flight deck because this one was a close call, remember?
Yeah.
So I won't go into that too much detail. You can all work it out yourself. But this is pre-glass cockpit still, aren't we, Sawyer?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
think we're still about 4 or 5 years out from that.
In fact, I've got a better photograph to really show that. Well, that one's a good photograph for a start. But this one, here we go. There you go. You see the old CRT screens. The glass cockpit modification, I still see photographs to this day, and I still think that looks like a real modern day spaceship. It's
It
probably
does.
far too much switches and knobs and displays for what's needed compared to likes of Dragon capsules and what have you, which is very automated. But it is impressive. I've shown friends who are no interest at all into rocketry and what have you, show them a shuttle cockpit with all the lights up, and they go, "Wow, that's amazing."
And don't forget, you also have the overhead panels. There's a left, center, right. There are panels to the right of the pilot and to the left of the commander. There's 2 different rows of switches there. There are the ones in the back. There's a whole different flight computer in the back of the orbiter as well. Then you have all of the switches and things that are used for the rendezvous, docking, and RMS operations, the robot arm. Yeah, and then of course the bottom panel, which you have a lot of your flight controls and essentially quote unquote autopilot type controls, in addition to the 2 flight computers there. Yeah, there's a lot of switches. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm going to now show a
Wait,
diagram of
really
the
quick,
satellite. Go on, Jack.
really quick. Sorry, I just have to say the mustache game on this mission
That was
is
worth it.
out of this
Yes.
world. Absolutely worth it. I had glass cockpits thoughts too, but we only have a limited amount of time, and I had to mention the mustaches. I mean, come on.
Hang on,
So
one
good.
more.
So 80s.
Here we go. Let's get 2 mustaches for the price of 1. There we go.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for humoring me.
You're welcome.
I'm
Right.
glad I contribute meaningful stuff.
Well, it's a very nice segue to a very expensive and secret satellite, isn't it? The mustaches, right? So let's hang on, I'm gonna do this old way. Here we go. I'm gonna do it the old way by going backwards. Here we go. Wait for it. There we go. Lacrosse, Vega, Onyx. Now, you'll notice in articles by William Graham, when he does NRO launch articles, he will make references to Lacrosse, Vega, and Onyx because they still use those words to describe the satellites without telling us too many details. Now, a lot of it got declassified, the 80s ones. I think there was a big incident with that Richard Snowden bloke, and that made the Department of Defense go, well, let's just declassify most of the stuff anyway because it's out there. And this is not from Richard Snowden, by the way. This is from the declassified content that's out there. But just shows you the size of the thing. I mean, let's zoom in a little bit.
Yeah,
There's
lacrosse satellites have huge antennas, and a lot of people think of NRO as like doing spy satellites in terms of imagery, but they do a lot of different types of spy satellites. Some of them are focused on visible wavelength imagery, like a photo that you would look at with your eyes. Some of them are signals intelligence or SIGINT satellites. This is a synthetic aperture radar satellite. You might see friend of the channel Harry Stranger posting synthetic aperture radar images now from private companies because of how far the state of the art has advanced. But yeah, this is a synthetic aperture spy satellite, not an imaging satellite, and thus it needs that huge big honking dish to do things that I don't understand.
got some stats here on the left-hand side. 31,971 pounds of mass. 42 feet length. 14 feet diameter. Wow. Only 5 years lifetime, so it's dead already. But the idea is, we'll never see the ones they're launching now. That's why you always hear, like the NRO recent one from SpaceX, they'll go at the request of the payload customer. We're not going to share views of the second stage after separation. That's the reason why they don't want a camera pointing at what their secret satellite is. How it is, and we have no idea what they look like these days. But you can imagine, this is what it was like back in that day. These are big things. I mean, these are not small.
And to that point, another interesting thing is these have been called like stealth satellites, which is not really a thing. It's a misnomer, but it's a generalization that is meaningful because the brightness of these particular lacrosse satellites are able to, like, I don't know, dim very rapidly, which is, a thing you see Starlink satellites do. I don't know. I've never seen it. I can't vouch for it, but some people have said, like, oh, these satellites might incorporate additional spooky countermeasures to make them harder to see or track or what have you. This is the first one launched, I think.
And in
Nice.
terms of information about this. We do know that it is absolutely massive in size. Again, in Riding Rockets, he talks about just how narrow the margins were. 'Cause obviously, he can't say too much about it, but basically saying just how close it was. They had someone in the airlock in the mid deck, making sure that they had the clearances right, in addition to using all of the already mounted cameras on board. There's another article out there that discusses it a little more in detail, saying that apparently they cost about $1 billion per unit, were equipped with a large radar antenna and solar arrays with a total wingspan that might have reached 50 meters or 165 feet.
Wild.
Wow. Right, I'm gonna show the landing now. This is where I get the sequence in order because the landing is the conclusion to the mission. Then I'm gonna show you some post-landing photographs, including the damage to TPS. Then I'm gonna show you a video from inside the OPF as they all start looking at the damage to Atlantis. And I'm gonna end on a few minutes of Hoot Gibson talking about what he saw on orbit and his reaction. I
Before we do
think,
that, real quick,
yes.
before we move on from the Lacrosse Onyx deal, there were very strong rumors that there were issues with the satellite immediately after deploy on this mission. It is extremely possible that they had to re-grapple it and then do some repairs on it. There's discussion that maybe in a old article from Air and Space that was linked in the NSF L2 forums here. Uh, there is a potential that they went and had to do a whole nother spacewalk to repair it. And in
Yeah.
fact, when they were about to do the 100th spacewalk, they were told, wait a minute, actually, there was a miscalculation. This isn't the 100th, it's an earlier one. So there's a very strong chance that there was a never disclosed EVA on this flight.
Absolutely. Right. So let's get to the landing video, which is about a minute long. So bear with me while I mute my microphone one more time.
Main gear landing. Main landing gear being deployed. Gear is down and locked. Velocity 400 feet per second. Main gear touchdown. Nose gear touchdown. Max officer reports good braking.
So that's the landing video. I want to go back to two things here. One is there's Jack in another life.
God,
Can
I
you imagine?
wish. I've said it on so many Shuttle Sundays. If I had a time machine, this is absolutely something I would shoot. Look at the landscape. It's got mountains. It's beautiful. East Coast's got nothing on that landing. Look at that. Anyways, let's continue.
There we go. Look at this. You can already see just from the landing video the state of Atlantis on the right side. I mean, this is 770 areas of damage they had. And don't worry, that's not the only thing you're going to see of this. You're going to see a lot of photographs. I'm going to start the photographs now.
Yeah, see all the white parts in the black TPS area? That's not supposed to be like that. It's really not supposed to be like that.
It's not. Here we go. We have a lot of photographs they took of the damage. I've got photographs of landing and the crew looking at it as well. So it might be a little bit out of order, but I'm going to go through these. Here we go. There's the landing photograph. Now we can zoom in on this one.
CB Spock in chat says you can see the damage from far away. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look at this.
100%.
Yeah,
It's-
that's the black coating material that's used to help with basically absorbing some of the heat. Obviously, the main heat material's underneath the black layer, but that white silica area is never meant to actually see direct heat itself.
It's
There's a crew.
honestly horrifying to look at.
Post landing, looking at one of the big areas of damage, which we'll get to in a second.
It's like looking at a bullet. It's like picking up a bullet off of the ground and looking at it and being like, that almost hit me.
This is in the sling, obviously California landing, so they put them in the MDD. Is it mate demate device? Which they had at KSC, but they also had one on the West Coast, and they had a crane version of it for White Sands. That's what I'm thinking. They had like 3, but 2 of them were real, and one of them was like transported on trains to the actual landing site. But that's where it's been lifted. Had it been put on the back of a 747, the SCA. And you can see the damage there. Here we go. This is not the terrible damage. This is just one example of it. This is the terrible damage. That's where they could have lost the vehicle. It was a full burn through. They lost a complete tile. And Sawyer, I know you know the story. Maybe you want to talk about it a little bit. The fact that there was a lucky spot here where they didn't lose the orbiter because it didn't burn through a plate that was there.
Yeah, this is extremely lucky in that we saw something very similar to what would eventually happen to Columbia here with this particular spot, a complete and actual destruction all the way through. They did luck out, as you can see right there. There was an aluminum mounting plate for an L-band antenna. That's one of the ones that's used for the navigation system, and that was directly underneath the tile that was destroyed. So thankfully, the
I think the
aluminum plate
I
helped.
think the plate was steel because the airframe of the shuttle is aluminum, which has a lower heating point, and so the plate was steel. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. The plate was steel and therefore did not melt in the same way that aluminum would have, which is exactly what happened with Columbia. Hot gases got in there, melted the airframe, game over. So, yeah, because this plate was there,
Yep.
the crew lived and the shuttle landed successfully. Had that plate not been there, it's just a good thing that plate was there.
Yes, steel. I meant steel, saying instead of the aluminum. Yes, thank you, Jack.
I'm about to say, sorry, wouldn't do a pun on purpose there. This is not a pun time.
No, definitely not. Not
Nope.
something serious like this.
Lots. I mean, I had hundreds of photographs. I just thought I'd select a few of them out of the L2 collection because we have
It's
so
really
many of them.
it's really just remarkable to see the sheer amount of damage, and as we'll talk about here in a moment, and as you'll show with the videos too, the crew was not unaware that there was this amount of damage, and that is when we started this episode, I said this is perhaps one of my favorite shuttle missions, not necessarily because of the close call, but just because of really when you think about what this crew did and went through between the classified stuff and between the damage to the heat shield, it's just a remarkable mission. There's you want unremarkable missions ultimately, right? You want boring missions where the thing gets done and there's nothing scary. This is not one of those missions.
I
Yeah,
think what
because
we could talk about.
there originally was an issue in orbit. The one of the left tires was actually starting to leak air, so they had to reposition the orbiter so that the belly of it was in more direct heating, so that they could basically slow the leak in the tire. And they're like, "Oh, that would be the worst of it until we get to the inspection like this."
I'm going to take
Ugh.
questions from chat because there's a question that I wanted to bring up before I start showing these photographs, which would be more relevant to do. And that is from Six String Stibbleton, who asks, what made this re-entry so damaging? It was basically damage from ascent from the right SRB nose cone ablative. Sorry, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna pull a gotcha on chat, Chris, and show the after launch stuff, and then go back and show the launch and see if we could see the actual strike. But I don't think you can because, as we were talking about,
Yeah.
that footage is so exposed and unfocused. Like it's just not good.
Yeah, Garbo.
Yeah, Garbo,
It
as
shows
they
that
say.
they will have engineering video, which we didn't get, but they've got engineering video where they would have seen that and found out why they had damage. So they would have realized why they had damage, but there was also a miscommunication between Mission Control and the crew because they asked them, based on what they saw on launch, to take the RS and take some photography of underneath the right-hand side of Atlantis, which they did. But the plot twist being, because of the DoD mission, they had to encrypt the video they sent down.
Right.
And that ruined the video, which meant that on the ground they didn't see how bad it was, and they thought it was fine to re-enter as is. And the crew was saying, but we see it with our Mark 1 eyeballs as terrible.
Right, but they couldn't send down an image good enough to mission control so that mission control would see how bad it is. So now the crew is like angry, essentially. Like we're not getting the support we need here, and they're unsure if this ship can get them home even, which is bonkers.
Yeah, the original quote was they called down, Houston, we're seeing a lot of damage. It looks as if one tile is completely missing. They said, we'll get back to you. And after a few minutes, Capcom responded saying, we looked at the images and Mechanical says it's not a problem. The damage isn't that severe. To which Hoot then got on and said, Houston, Mike is right. We're seeing a lot of damage. To which they then replied again, quote, it's not a problem. So yeah, he then goes on to say, we were in the Twilight Zone. Who is this speaking to us and what have you done with the real mission control? Maybe I thought MCC didn't know we had suffered major damage or were hiding the fact from us.
Wow.
Yep. I'm going to also, while I'm on the questions, I'm going to cover a few which covered when we were showing the launch photographs. Junar asks, wasn't there supposed to be an LC-39D and a 39E as well? Yes. That was the Von Braun master plan. That was when they were going to go from the moon to the Mars mission straight away. And they wanted extra pads. And there was definitely, I've seen plans for it. In fact, I will bring, one day we'll do a pad thing. We'll do a show on pads because I have so much documentation on that, especially from the historical times. And future times are also interesting as well. And we'll bring that up because there wasn't a D and an E, but C was going to be the main one. That's where they basically cancelled Apollo before they got to C, but there was going to be a D and an E. Also, I'll put it into chats so people know what I'm talking about. Gabriel asks, why did they remove the lightning mast from the shuttle tower in 39B but not 39A? Wasn't that for the Ares, silly rocket, where they built 3 600-foot towers as lightning protection systems, so there was no need for a tower on there? Or was there just not a lightning tower on 39B during shuttle? That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure it was there during Shuttle. It was
Yeah.
nearly identical fixed service structures, but then obviously as they switched over to Ares and the Constellation program originally, they went kind of back to the Apollo days of we don't need this fixed service structure. We'll just use the mobile launch eventually. And so that's kind of what we have now with SLS is also the mobile launcher that brings all of that with it.
We should do a pads episode. I don't know if it's
Yes.
Shuttle Sunday or what, but maybe if it is Shuttle Sunday, when we get to the end of the shuttle program, as like a wrap up episode after that, we talk about all the pads. I don't know, maybe.
That's a good photograph. That just shows the length of the damage along the belly
Look
of
at
Atlantis.
that. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
770 areas of damage. 770.
Yeah. And I mean, they were livid on board when they basically were getting nothing from them. And again, I keep quoting Riding Rockets, but this chapter gave me chills when I was rereading it. Basically said, the anxiety was exhausting and I finally gave in to Hoot's solution. The day before, as he floated up to the windows to do some sightseeing, he said, quote, no reason to die all tensed up.
I might have that in a clip.
Again, Hoot is a typical, right stuff kind of guy and an unflappable person. Like most astronauts are all astronauts. For him to be candidly saying things like that,
They weren't
it's
exactly hiding. They weren't exactly hiding. Look at this. They weren't exactly hiding it, were they? They
Nope.
did a nice little photograph with the management there, with the damage on show behind them.
Yeah, right.
What? That's crazy. But
Also,
yeah,
the
there's.
final crew assigned by George Abbey at NASA. Just another
Oh, interesting Sawyer fact. We need a Sawyer fact with the Sawyer Flex. Now I'm going to show a video that's not great quality. There's the occasional sound, but it's mainly from the loudspeaker and the OPF. But this is when they got Atlantis back to KSC. They had a special team look over the damaged areas, and I just think it's historical and nice. And I also, Sawyer back me up, I'm sure I recognize somebody under this clip. Now tell me if I'm just seeing things or if it's the same person you see at the end of this clip.
Okay.
Oh yeah, is that
Is
who I
that
think it
Charlie
is?
Bolden?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible, isn't it? Because I'm trying to think of his mission schedules. I wonder if he was still probably in the pilot commander kind of like guys rather than the management guys. So I wonder if they brought shuttle astronauts in to see it, which is great transparency for the program, just to get an astronaut's input. I think he's the only astronaut there in the clips, at least I've seen. So that's incredible.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I mean, he still hadn't flown his first flight yet, had he? He would get his flying ship
Yeah.
for the deployment of Hubble.
Was he a FNG or was he after that?
He was. I gotta look it up now. I don't know
Eh,
that
don't
one
worry
off
about
the
it.
top of my head.
Moving on.
But yeah, when I was basically just looking for clips and whatever, yeah, I was like going through, oh, that's quite interesting. I might show a bit of this. And I just basically kept it running to see if there's anything more interesting to keep hold of before I put it on the Shuttle Sunday. And then I went, Charlie Bolden. It's got to be Charlie Bolden. That's amazing.
Okay, I
There
stand
we go.
corrected. He was one after TFNG, but he
Thank you.
did fly once in '86. He flew the mission before Challenger.
Got it.
There we go. Right, so we've gone through all the photographs, we've gone through all the clips from NASA.gov. There is a clip I want to share. It's from a very long two-part interview. I'm going to spam chat with the link to the channel because I don't like, normally I just stick to stuff that either we own, either we filmed or whatever, but it is so really interesting for the whole complete context of this Shuttle Sunday that we play a few minutes of this, which I'm sure they'll be fine with. But I'm going to spam the channel first, and I'm going to play the clip next. This is really, really fascinating. So bear
We
with
should
me. I'll find it
also we'll have the link to this in the description,
in the description.
of the video when it's not. If you're watching live, you can see it in the chat. When it's you get it. You know how YouTube works.
Right, here we go. I'm going to play it now, and it just gives you all the context you possibly need. Ready for this? This is going to be interesting.
I will never forget, we maneuvered the arm, and Mike Mullane was my arm operator, so he moved the arm over there, and we brought up the television image of the right wing, and I looked at what I was seeing, and I said to myself, we are going to die, because we could see a vast amount of tile damage on the right wing. So I keyed the mic, and I told the Capcom, if I remember right, the capsule communicator, or Capcom, was Dave Hilmers. And I called him and I said, Dave, we're seeing a lot of tile damage on the right wing. And he said, okay, we'll get back to you. So they went away for a while, and it turned out Department of Defense didn't want any video coming down, just in case we would have the death ray in the picture. Okay, we didn't have a death ray. We're seeing a lot of tile damage on that right wing. So they came back and said, it's no worse than what we've seen before. Well, I said, well, you know what? I've been here since before STS-1, the first shuttle launch, and I've never seen anything like this. And then I did something that I shouldn't have done. I kind of gave in. I said, okay, but you guys are the experts. I should have dug my heels in and said, hey, let's talk about this. And so there were some funny things that came out of it. The night before re-entry, I remember one of the astronauts was talking about how he was a little bit more than nervous about this re-entry tomorrow. And I said to him, oh, come on, don't feel that way. No use dying all tensed up. And so, this is fighter pilot humor, or gallows humor.
Gallows humor.
And however, all the way down on re-entry, I was watching the elevons. I can see right where the left elevons are and where the right elevons are on my display. And I knew that if we started to burn through the right wing, what I would see is we would build up more drag on that right wing. And to balance the amount of drag, the left elevon would be going down. And that creates drag. That's how we create drag with an elevon at this 40-degree angle of attack that we fly reentry at. And so all the way down, I have the audio that I made from the reentry, that we made, the crew made for the reentry. And all the way down in the atmosphere, about every 2 minutes, I'd say, guys, the controls look good. The elevons look good. So we watched them all the way down, because I knew what I'd see is I'd see a split. The right elevons would be going up, the left elevons would be going down. Oh, an elevon is a combination aileron and elevator, so that's why it's called elevon. So that's what we have on the trailing edge of both wings. I'd see the right elevon going up and the left elevon going down. And if that happened, I knew that I might have 60 seconds to tell Mission Control what I thought of their analysis.
That's where the best point to end it for that. Again, click on that channel if you want to watch the entire interview. It goes on. It's like 2 parts. It's like over an hour. So that was just a part I just wanted to show, because the end part there where he goes, and look at the smile on his face. That's typical astronaut. You know, I'd have 60 seconds before we were dead to tell everybody exactly what I thought. It reminds me of a terrible Russian incident where the it ended in disaster, and the cosmonaut basically spent his last seconds just absolutely cursing the people on the ground. So, you know, that's probably what he had in mind.
It's a thing. It's absolutely a thing. I mean, and that smile that you see on his face right there is the smile of a man that lived. Like any other tile, any other place, things could have gone very differently, and thank frickin' goodness it didn't.
Yeah. Well, there we go. I tell you what, I couldn't have timed that better if I thought about it. We tend to go for an hour with these shows on Shuttle Sundays, and guess what? We've done an hour. That's worked out really well. We've got to the end of that. I wonder if Sawyer's got any Sawyer facts about this mission that I may have missed and just talked over that you want to bring up on this one, because if not, we'll go on to the next Shuttle Sunday mission, which will be STS-29.
I think the only other thing worth noting is that this was the second of the R numberings. So this is STS-27, but it's officially designated in all the paperwork STS-27R, because STS-51I was originally STS-27 until they did all the changing of the weird naming. So not to confuse them, this is 27R, the other one is 27.
The fun part is for STS-26 and STS-27, it briefly once again lined up. Like STS-27 was the 27th shuttle flight. STS-26 was also the 26th shuttle flight. And then it goes right back to making no sense all over again. But coincidentally, briefly, it did make sense.
Yeah, again, sorry, people are going to go, oh, next mission will be STS-28.
Nope.
No, it's STS-29.
Yep.
Yeah,
we get fun.
This is a really good one. You know, it's like pretty far down there on the shuttle iceberg, knowing the comments, you know, from Hoot about letting Mission Control know what he's going to think. Like, this is a really good Shuttle Sunday, so I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Yep, lots more to come. It's going to be not this coming Sunday, because it's Easter Sunday. As a good Catholic boy, we're not working Easter Sunday, so we'll be coming in a few weeks at least for next Shuttle Sunday. But thanks all for joining us. Thank you first and foremost to Sawyer. Thank you, Sawyer.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be here talking about one of my favorite space vehicles of all time. One of my favorite things of all time. So thank you.
As Chris G would say, and we need to get Chris G on. I'm sure his NDA would allow him to talk about Shuttle. We can't get Chris G on to talk about SpaceX. That'd be his NDA out the window. But I'm sure if we can get Chris G back on as a special guest for a Shuttle Sunday, that'd make perfect sense. We are going to try that.
I would die and go to heaven. I would die and go to heaven.
Yes.
Ignore anything else I have to say. Thank you for trying to say goodbye to me, Chris. No, take my right arm. Like, what needs to happen to make that happen? Let's do it.
Yeah, thanks also to Jack. There we go.
Yeah. Christine, we miss you, buddy. Come talk about Shuttle if you can.
Yeah. There we go. But yeah, and also thank you to Jay in the background for making sure everything worked, because if it was just left to me, it'd be a complete mess of a show, because I don't know what I'm doing, because I'm stupid. So thank you to Jay in the background producing this, as always. And thanks also to you all, because chat's been very active. You're all very much... It's just nice to know there's many people interested in Shuttle still. Because you do see it these days when you bring up on like an occasional X post, people go, "Oh, that's not a vehicle that costs loads of money, kill people." It's yes, but also there's so much to recognise the achievements they did, and I think these shows are important. Just to have it out there on YouTube forever is very nice to have because it's history, and we know where we've come from with history and how it's all
Right.
still playing its part today.
And if you don't watch these live, if you're watching this recorded, follow us on socials if you don't do that, because then you'll know when we're doing it live so you can join in and chat. Because chat really is a delightful mix of like, long-term shuttle fans who know everything and people who are discovering stuff for the first time. It's really cool because we have a mix of that in chat, and I get to see people go, "Oh my God, they did what?" or I get to see people chime in with stuff I didn't even know. So yeah, definitely check it out live if you can.
Yep, absolutely. Not just X, it's Facebook and Instagram. By the way, I keep saying it, Facebook. Our Facebook page is better than my X feed. I guarantee that straight away. It's much better. So definitely, if you've got different preferences, or if you just want to have a spread, Facebook are probably one of the best ones. Really is on an NSF account. Really is cool. Right, enough of me babbling. I never do a proper sign off. You know what? Like on Raptor side, I'll just blabber on forever. So I'm going to say thank you for joining us, and until next time, goodbye.